So this is not a mimer that was recited, but this is a mimer. This was a mimer that were written.
Oh, written.
Right. It's a sefer.
Oh,
No.
Good morning. Good morning, Mrs. Greenhouse. Good morning, Brazil. Laura. So we're starting a new mimer today. And hopefully we'll finish it before the break. It's a mimer on Pesach, explaining the significance of chametz and matzah from a Hasidic perspective. So this mimer is from the sefer called Derech Mitzvosecha, and we learned mimer from the sefer before. This is from the Tzemach Tzedek, and the whole book is explaining different mitzvahs from a Hasidic perspective. What happens according to Kabbalah and according to Chassidus when we perform this mitzvah, and why did Hashem give us this mitzvah? One of the mitzvahs are the mitzvah of eating matzah and getting rid of chametz. The problem, though, with this mimer is, it's not a problem with the mimer, a problem with us is that I don't have the mimer with English translation. I don't think it exists. So we'll work with the Hebrew. In the Hebrew, there are no vowels, which makes it, again, even harder. But I'll try to read it slow and keep pointing out so you can follow me in the inside. And naturally, it's a very fundamental mimer, and a lot of mimarim in the future, or future rabbeim, after the Tzemach Tzedek, always made reference to this mimer. So we'll start now. Did you have a copy? This is Horowitz. I'll give this to you, Natty. If anyone else walks in, you can give it to them. So on top of the page, it says Mitzvas Hashbosas Chametz. These are two mitzvahs. One mitzvah is to destroy the chametz, and this, that's the negative. And then there's a positive mitzvah, achilas matzah, to eat matzah. In Chag HaMatzos, the mitzvah that's related to the Pesach, which has another name called Chag HaMatzos. In davening, when we say Ya'aleh V'Yaveh, and we mention this yontif, we call it Chag HaMatzos, the yontif of matzos. And the mitzvah is the Hashbis Chametz B'erev Pesach. To get rid of the chametz starting from Erev Pesach in the afternoon, Shenemar, as it says, Tashbisu. That's one mitzvah. The other commandment is Lechol Matzah B'leil Tezvav B'Nisan, to eat matzah on the 15th of Nisan, Shenemar B'erev Teichol Matzis. So let's just look at the pasuk inside. It's Parshas, it's Chumash Shmos, chapter 12. Pasuk Tezvav. You want to look it up in the booklet. In this booklet, it's page 8. Where it says, so let's first look at page 6, 7, and 8. Shivas Yomim Matzis Techelu. For 7 days you should eat matzahs. And the first day, starting from the first day, you have to remove all leavened bread from your home. So that's a commandment. And then when you turn the page, it says, on the first day of the 14th, at night, which is the night of the 15th, Teichel matzahs, you shall eat matzahs. So that's the mitzvah. And that's what the mimer is going to explain, the negative and the positive. So I'm going to skip the first paragraph because that's just pure Kabbalah. And no point in even reading it. Hopefully, at the end of the year, you'll have so much knowledge of Chassidus, you'll be able to go back to it again and understand what it says. I'll tell you a little secret. I don't understand so much what it says. It's a tough piece. We'll do it for the second paragraph. To understand this, to bring this closer to our understanding, basically, what is it? What it says in Kabbalah? What is this drawing down meichen, the wisdom of Hashem upon us? What is this light that reaches us during the end of Pesach? Through eating matzah. Kiyadu, as it's known, Mashakasa b'zoyer, it says in the Zoyer Vayetze, Shamatzo michel d'beim nusa. Matzah is called the bread of faith. For years and years, I always heard Sichas of the Rebbe. I saw it in my Morim and Sichas. Matzah is called bread of faith, but I never knew the source. Why is matzah called the bread of faith? So the source is from the Zohar. And here he brings the source. The source is from the Zohar. Let's read that part of the Zohar inside. So in the booklet, it's page 9. It's a short piece. Again, this is even better. It's pure Aramaic, but I'll translate each word. Start where it's underlined. It says like this: there was a king, the Heavenly Barichidoi V'Chola. She had a one and only son, and the one and only son got sick. Yom Echad, one day, Heavy Tov the Meichel, he wanted to eat. He was very hungry. Amru, so they, meaning probably the doctors who were taking care of him, said, Yechol Berei de Malka, the son of the king should eat Asvasada, this medicine that's going to heal him, that's going to cure him. Va'ad de Yechole, until he eats this medicine which is going to cure him, Leishtakach Michla Mezoina Achra Bebeisa. He shouldn't eat any other food, and no other food should even be in the house. Only this healing food that is healing. Of the Hacha, they did that, which means he ate only one food, the food which is healing. Even the Achalahu Asvasa, once he ate that food, which brought healing, Omar, then the king said, or the doctor said, Mikana Lahala, from now on, Yechol Kol Ma De'iu Tov. He can eat anything he wants. And it won't do any harm. Because once he ate this, he had the vaccine, now he can eat whatever he wants. That was a food that made him cured, and once he's cured, everything else you don't have to worry about. But before that, he wouldn't be allowed to eat any other food. When Yidden went out of Egypt, they have a yada ikra v'raza de menusa. They didn't know the fundamental secret of Amunah. The secret of Amunah they didn't know. Omar Kadosh Baruch Hu, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Yitamun Yisrael Asvasa, they should eat this healing food. Ba'ad Yechlon Asvasa da, until they eat this healing food, they shouldn't eat anything else. Which is the healing food? Matzah. Kiven the Ochla Matzah, the Asvasa, was the eighth matzah which is healing. L'meyal u'leminda beraza de meimnusa. And this matzah enabled them to know the secret of Amunah. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, then Kadosh Baruch Hu said, from now on, is chazal and chametz. They could see chametz, they could eat chametz. It won't do any damage. So even though chametz is something that's prohibited in a very, very severe way, there's very few things, as we'll learn later, that the avera of eating it is so severe, like chametz. But nevertheless, once you eat matzah, you don't have to be worried about the chametz. You can eat as much as chametz as you want. And the same as with us, every year, for 7 days or 8 days, we eat only matzah, and then the rest of the year we can eat chametz. So it says two things here. Number one, that this is the bread that brought healing to the prince. And number two, what was the healing? They didn't know the secret of Amunah. By eating the matzah, now they know the secret of Amunah. So this is the source for the same famous quote that matzah brings Amunah and matzah brings healing, these two things. And that's what he's going to explain in the Maimer. Primarily, what does it mean that matzah brings Amunah? So it says in the Zohar, I'm going back to the front page now, the first page, page number 1. It says in the Zohar, Sha'matzah hi michla d'beim nusa. Matzah is food of Amunah. Shadei achilas matzah, through eating matzah, tischazik or Amunah, this will strengthen the Amunah, believe in the Shamesh Yisrael. V'chein kosev HaChinuch, and the Chinuch wrote the same thing. As we know, the Chinuch, that's the book that you study actually in the dorm every Friday night, which has a list of all the mitzvahs, but he also gives the reason to the mitzvahs. And he says, Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim, there's a mitzvah, in the mitzvah of telling the story of our exodus from Mitzrayim, Ki Yisod Gadol, this is a big foundation, a fundamental aspect, the Amud Chazak, and a very strong pillar, the Torah Seinu v'Emunah Seinu, in our Torah and in our faith, this is one of the things that is a sign to us of how the world was created by Hashem. The Chiyesh Elokah Kadmon is the one God who was here forever. Chafetz v'Yochel Poel Kol HaNimtzois. He can do everything he wants. V'Yodei L'Shanis Hayesh, and it's within his power to change everything. Sheyachpetz. Boy. In case you lost me, the first word on the line is boy, right in the middle of the page. So the Eibishter could do whatever he wants, v'chol zman min hazmanim, any time he wants, any place he wants, whatever he wants. K'mei shasem b'Mitzrayim, like he did in Mitzrayim. Sheshina tidei ha'olam b'shvileinu, he changed the nature of the world for us. All the 10 makas, the splitting of the sea, the defeating Mitzrayim. This is what he says. So simply, when you eat matzah, or you tell the story, it sees Mitzrayim, you go over the details of the story, and that reminds us and makes us more aware how Hashem is the creator of the universe, and therefore he's not limited by the laws of nature. In fact, he controls nature, and he can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, wherever he wants, and that is our amunah in Hashem, which leads us and guides us in our daily life. That the only thing that really will make the difference, whether or not we'll have what we need to have, is if we're connected to Hashem, who's the source of all sources, and he is the cause of all causes for everything that happens to me. And the idea that Hashem is not limited, so even if according to nature, it doesn't appear that I can get this or I can have that or this person could be cured, Hashem is above all that. These are the words of the Chinuch. According to the Chinuch, he explains it according to Pshat, simple Pshat. The Hainu, this means, Shadei hamatzes, by eating matzes, Shenasa bezikoron Yitzias Mitzrayim, it reminds us of going out of Egypt. Tikba b'levavenu ha'amuna hazois. This will plant in our hearts and engrave in our hearts. It'll make that amuna become embedded in our hearts. Why? Ki achrei hapulis l'mshochem halavavis. The heart goes by the action. This is one of the, I would say, central principles in the whole book of Sefer HaChinuch. Again, he's a sefer that's different than the Rambam and other Sfarim that list mitzvahs, in the sense that he gives a reason for mitzvahs. The Chas v'Shalom, no one is attempting to say that we understand Hashem's reason. Whatever reason we give, Hashem's real reason is way beyond that. But Hashem wants us to understand things to some degree according to our perception. So one of the, I would say this is a thread that goes through the whole book, is that a person's mind goes according to their actions. When they act in a certain way, it draws your mind in that direction. So if I eat matzah, which means I'm sort of doing an act which is related to Yitzias Mitzrayim, it makes my mind more aware of Yitzias Mitzrayim. It makes me more conscious of Yitzias Mitzrayim, and more aware, more conscious of all Hashem's miracles. That's the pshat. Yeah.
Can you say that again? Because you just said that our actions affect the way we think.
Right. That the thoughts of a person are sort of drawn, and they follow the actions. For example, if a person gives tzedakah, that in itself makes me develop and become more aware of being more conscious of being sensitive to someone else's needs.
Right.
In other words, it can work two ways. One way is I feel in my heart this person's situation, and therefore I give tzedakah. And the other possibility is I don't really have that feeling. But by giving tzedakah once and twice and three times, by doing an act of kindness, I will become more of a kind person.
Usually we think and feel before we act.
Right.
We're waiting for that feeling
Right.
before we act. What you're saying now.
But halavai, we would have all the feelings that the Torah wants us to have. We don't. So our Torah gives us actions to do, and each act is an exercise that helps develop the feeling. It's a technique, if you want to call it that way.
Yeah.
And what's in other words, the act makes a person more aware, more conscious. Like there's a famous Rambam that he explains a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. What if a person has the opportunity to give 10 single dollars in 10 pushkas, or one $10 bill in one pushka? That's not his words, but that's the idea. What's the better thing to do?
Give 10 $1 notes.
In 10 pushkas?
In 10 pushkas, yes.
Right. Why is that better?
10 acts.
Right. So the Rambam writes, because every act I do makes a certain dent in my personality. So even though at the end of the day it's the same $10, but because there were 10 acts of tzedakah, it has an effect on my nature, my personality, to be more of a kinder person to some degree, because I did it 10 times. And here it's one act. So his principle is that putting up a mezuzah is a certain idea behind it. By putting up the mezuzah, by having a mezuzah, I'm more conscious of that idea. By giving tzedakah, I'm more conscious of a different idea. By shaking lulav and esrog, I'm conscious of a different idea. By eating matzah, I become more conscious and aware of the miracles that Hashem performed in Mitzrayim and Hashem's infinite greatness and how he's above nature and so on. And then that's how a person operates. Ayin Sham, look into this more deeper. It's mitzvah Tazayin. In the 16th mitzvah, he elaborates on this more, but actually he mentions it by all the mitzvahs. Nevertheless, even though this is the reason given in the chinuch, I already gave this introduction by a different mitzvah. One of the mitzvahs explained in this sefer is the mitzvah of milah. What's the spiritual, kabbalistic significance of bris milah? And I explained there that Eiraisa, Sos, and Vegalia. The Torah has two dimensions to it, a hidden dimension and a revealed dimension. What the Sefer HaChinuch wrote was the revealed dimension of the mitzvah. But according to the hidden dimension, in other words, just like a person, you look at a person and you look at the person with your eyes. What you see is revealed. There's much more to the person than what we see with our eyes. How do you know? Because we all know from ourselves that what the other person sees, they have no idea what's going on inside. All you see is a human being, face, body, and that's it. So there's the revealed and there's concealed. And the truth is, even if you go deeper to the neshama, there's also revealed and concealed. There's a part that I'm more conscious of, a part that I'm less conscious of. But generally speaking, it's the guf and the neshama. So the Torah is also made up of a guf and neshama. There's a way of understanding and perceiving the Torah, which is according to the revealed. And it's not that it's not true, but this is the revealed explanation. And then there's a deeper explanation according to Chassidus. So the revealed explanation is that when I do a mitzvah, it makes me more conscious. The deeper reason is, what's the deeper reason? You do a mitzvah, the mitzvah actually contains in it, it's very potent. It has in it a spiritual power that by eating matzah, it actually produces, develops emunah in my heart. By giving tzedakah, it has a spiritual power that it makes me a more sensitive person. And the same thing with Torah and Lulav and Esrog and Shofar and all the mitzvahs. Each mitzvah is drawing down a certain energy of Hashem, a certain koyach of Hashem. And when that koyach penetrates me, my neshama, and my guf, it creates within me that power that enables me to develop this particular character trait. So that's the difference. According to Nigla, it's just that it makes me aware. According to Chassidus, it's more than aware. It's actually just like taking food, which gives you strength, or taking anything which has a certain nutritional value, it'll give you part of nutrition. This is what makes you healthy and strong. So this gives us spiritual power. When you read the Haggadah, besides the fact that when you read the Haggadah, you're more aware of the story of Mitzrayim, reading the Haggadah itself, by performing this mitzvah, we are at that moment like setting up a conduit through which Hashem channels his bracha and gives us a koyach that will have a stronger emunah. Now the revealed part of Torah and the hidden part of Torah aren't two separate things. They're in a way that they sort of fit with each other. Just like the garment and the body. The clothes we wear are measured according to our size, and each garment is designed in a way that it fits that part of the body. So even the two gloves, one is on my right hand and one is on my left hand, the glove on my right hand is a little bit different than the one on my left, because this is for the right hand with the fingers one way, and that's the left hand with the fingers a different way. My right shoe is designed different than my left shoe. So the same as with the Torah. Everything in the revealed of the Torah is designed differently, but it's designed to fit the hidden secret according to Chassidus. And then there's deeper and deeper and deeper. There's deeper, like I said before, there's the neshama and the guf. And then in the neshama, there's external and internal, and there's external and internal, pretty much thousands or maybe infinite layers of depth in the neshama itself. Just like the guf has a neshama, then there's nefesh, then there's ruach, then there's neshama, then there's chaya, and then there's yechida. 5 layers in the neshama itself, and one is deeper than the other. There's a famous word from the Baal Shem Tov. There's a pasuk in Tillim. It's actually a Tillim which we say, at least the men say it every Friday before Shabbos begins. And in the pasuk it says that they were wrapped in hunger. Nafsham behem tis'ata. Their soul is wrapped in hunger. It's talking about a person who's in the desert and he's lost and he doesn't have any food. And when it says his soul was wrapped in hunger, literally it means that he's so hungry that his soul is hanging on the edge, so to speak. If he doesn't have food soon enough, who knows if he'll be able to survive. So Hashem said, what does it mean the soul is wrapped in hunger? When a person is hungry, which means I am drawn to eat certain foods. The reason why I'm hungry is because my body hadn't had food, so therefore I'm drawn to the food. But the truth is, nafsham behem tasadav, the soul is wrapped in that craving. The soul wants to elevate the spark in the food. So therefore, the soul is craving for the food. It wants to elevate the spark. But when that craving of the soul manifests in the body, then the body wants the food for bodily reasons, for physical reasons, materialistic reasons. I want the pleasure of the food. But where's the source that's coming from the soul, that is really something deeper going on, and that is the soul wants to elevate the sparks in the food. So the same is with different things in a person. Even the soul, where does that come from? It goes from deeper and deeper. So the same thing with Torah. Whatever we see in the Torah, whatever is explained in the Torah, even if it's explained in a simple way, there's depth to it, and there's depth to the depth, and depth to the depth of the depth of the depth, and goes on and on and on. And that's what he's going to explain here. This is what the Chinuch says. And he's going to explain what does it mean that it actually enables us, gives us the power to have emunah. And this explains a lot of, like they have Miftzayim, like before Pesach, whatever, encourages us to give out matzah to people. First of all, they're observing a mitzvah. Forget about everything else. But second of all, when a person eats matzah, naturally they eat kosher matzah in the right time in the light of Pesach. It actually gives them spiritual strength, which they didn't have before. So just like food gives strength to the body, this gives strength to the neshama. Next paragraph, Olahavin. It's always important to recognize, especially when you have to answer questions on mitzvahim and help people understand things. Like the general idea of mitzvahs, people could understand. But when it comes to the particular details that they can't handle. I mean, what's the big deal if this is a little bit higher, this is a little bit lower? If you do this before that, so what? I want to make Kiddush on Shabbos. So the person sits down, takes two challah. Oh, no. First you have to do the wine, then the challah. And what happens if we do the challah before the wine? Is it the end of the world? The challah is a reason, the wine's a reason. So I do the challah before the wine. What are you getting so uptight about? So if you look at mitzvahs as just symbolic or to remind us of something, you're right, that really shouldn't make so much of a difference. But if you look at mitzvahs that they actually make something happen, if it's not in the right order, it's not in the right place, if it's not in the right detail, it's not going to happen. It's like somebody would say, the telephone number is 774-6289. And what if I do 774-6982? Big deal, I've mixed up the order a little bit. So one number is before the other number. No, you can end up someplace else. If you dial this number, you'll end up in China. If you dial that number, you'll end up in Australia. And the third number, you'll end up in the Soviet Union. So which number am I dialing? The same numbers. What could be the big deal, what the order is? So spiritually, if you do things the right order, you end up in one place. If you do the wrong order, you don't end up in that place. So once you understand that mitzvahs are not just symbolic, they're not just to make us aware, think of things, but they actually make things happen. So it's like any other technology that we have, that unless the computer is designed the way it's supposed to, and unless the spaceship is designed the way it's supposed to, it won't accomplish what it's supposed to. Even though it looks okay, but a little detail is not in place, it won't happen. I remember once, this was one of the first times that they were sending a spaceship to outer space. It didn't take off, and they found there was something wrong with the screw. I think it was loose. The Rebbe gave a sikh about it. They said you're supposed to learn from everything you see and you hear. You have this huge mechanism, this machine, right? So much science is involved in building this thing, and everything is set, but it didn't work because one little tiny screw was out of place. So once you understand mitzvahs that way, we can value the details of the mitzvahs as well. Let's first understand much in a more profound way, what is really emunah? Inyan emunah mahi, what is it really? She'eina kavana, it really doesn't mean what people think it means. She'HaKadosh Baruch Hu mechaya kol ha'olam is bilvad. That Hashem gives life to all the worlds. I mean, of course, you have to believe that, but that's not the only thing that really is included in emunah. In truth, you don't really, you can't really call this emunah. Emunah means faith. And faith is something which you use for things that you can't see, you can't comprehend. But something which you see with your eyes, you won't use the term emunah. You won't say, I have emunah that the sun is shining. We can see this with our eyes of flesh. What does that mean? Even though we don't see begashmis with our eyes of flesh, we don't see Hashem, but it's so simple, it's so clear, it's it's as if you see with the eyes of flesh. He doesn't use the term here yet, but we'll see the term a little bit later. There's a term that's brought down in Chassidus, and that is a term in Chassidus, which is the eyes of the mind. Einei haseichel. There's eyes of flesh and there's eyes of the mind. There's certain things that are so clear that you see it, but you see it with the eyes of the mind, not with the eyes of flesh. And especially if you see it through something physical, it's as if you're seeing it physically.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
the miracles were so open, even the non-Jews kind of acknowledged that it was Hashem. Why do we need to believe in something that's so obvious? Why do we need the faith to believe that what happened was it was Hashem? Everyone knew it was Hashem. We knew it was Hashem.
Right. So when it happens, and those who are present at the time that it happened, you're right. Those who are present at the time that it happened, you're right. But I guess this is a mitzvah for all times, even when we don't see open miracles, which is the majority of times. And even if there are miracles, not everybody sees it. I just heard it from someone else. So therefore, you need emunah. And he explains this. A person doesn't need emunah to have emunah that I have life in my body. He sees that his flesh and blood is alive. The flesh and the blood and all the organs in the body, in their own right, in their own merit, they have no life. They're just like anything else which is inanimate. So it's as if he sees with his eyes the chayas of the neshama, which is in the flesh, even though you don't see the actual soul. So if somebody will ask you, did you see that person yesterday? And you say yes, I say, no, you didn't. You saw their body, but you didn't see them. No one talks like that. No one thinks like that. Because when you see a person, the person and the personality, whoever you're relating to, is manifest through the body. There's a famous chapter in Tanya, chapter Membeis, 42. The Rebbe talks about the story. Rabbi Yechim ben Zakkai, before he passed away, his student said to him, give me a bracha, give us a bracha. And his bracha was that you should have fear of Hashem, like the fear that you have of humans. And they were very disappointed and said, that's all you're offering us? To have fear of Hashem like fear of humans? The fear of Hashem should be infinitely greater than the fear of humans. So he said to them, it's a very big bracha. And I'll prove it to you. Because before people do something, they say to themselves or think to themselves, I hope nobody's watching. Which means that if somebody would be watching, they wouldn't do it. But if a person would be watching them, they wouldn't do it. The fact that Hashem is watching them, they're still ready to do it. Which means that even though I believe that Hashem is watching, but that knowledge is not the same reality to me like an actual physical person's watching me. So after the Alter Rebbe explains that, so the question is, so how could he give such a bracha? How is it possible for a person to have fear of Hashem like a human being? It's impossible. Humans I see, Hashem I don't see. So the Alter Rebbe gives a mashal, and it says, as a person who is in the presence of a king, he feels fear towards the king. What's the king? Is it the robe that he's wearing? No. Is his nose, his fingers, his toes? No, it's the person. But you don't see the neshama. So why do you have fear of the king? You're not seeing it anyway. It's also something which is not reality. And the answer is, no, it is reality, because I see it with the eyes of my mind, and it's manifested through the body, so I see it with the eyes of flesh. In other words, there's a combination here. With my mind, I see there's a person here. And not only that, but I see with my eyes the person's personality manifests through the body. And therefore, it's as if it's a physical vision, as a visual experience of the actual king himself. And the Alter Rebbe says that we would look at the world and picture in our mind that this world is like the body. And Hashem is manifesting through the body. So when the wind is blowing and the sun is shining and the moon is shining and there's trees are shaking, whatever is happening, I would say, this is Hashem making all this happen. Then it would be like seeing a person manifesting through his physical body. If I train myself to think that way, I'll be looking at the physical world. And in a sense, it's like a visual experience of Hashem. I had a teacher once explain something like this. When you teach a child for the first time you're teaching them arithmetic, whatever age that is, I'm not sure. And you teach them, and you go up in the classroom, you say, children, I want to teach something new today for the first time. 2 + 2 = 4. They don't know what you're talking about. Why? It's a simple concept. The answer is it's simple, but for them, it's abstract. It's like somebody would tell us some deep concept in Chassidus. They don't get it. What do you mean 2 + 2 = 4? I'm talking about 3-year-old, 4-year-old, whatever that age is. So you take 2 boxes and 2 other boxes, and you put them in front of the children. Say, how many boxes do we have here? They count 1, 2. How many do you have here? 1, 2. How much is all together? 4. See, 2 + 2 = 4. And they got it. Now the question is, how come when you do that, they get it? If the concept is too deep for them, how come they get it now? So you're going to tell me because they can see the boxes. But the boxes is not the concept. The boxes are the boxes. How do they get to understand the concept if it's too abstract? Or 2 apples and 2 apples?
Because they can physically count, like it's within their reach. It's such a small number, they can just count them out.
Right, so now they know they could see boxes, but they can't see the concept. If the concept is too abstract, then the visual experience of boxes shouldn't help me with the concept. And if the concept is not too abstract, that's why they can get it. So I don't need boxes. I'll talk enough until they'll get it without the boxes, without the apples. The answer is, think about it, chew it over, you'll see. The answer is when you show them 2 apples and 2 apples = 4, they're actually seeing the concept. Through the apples, they see the concept with the eyes of their mind. The concept becomes visual to them. The concept is being manifested through the apples. So in a sense, the concept becomes visual, and that's why it's no longer abstract.
This sounds very abstract to me.
When you show somebody, when you're demonstrating 2 + 2 = 4 through physical objects, the concept, you see it now through these objects, so the concept becomes visual. And therefore they can grasp it. Mashef Shilurot, Beinayim. So basically, when I understand that there's a neshama with my eyes of the brain, and then with the eyes of flesh, I see the body, and I look at the neshama and the body together, even the neshama sort of becomes visual to me because I'm seeing it through the body. Yes, I need the brain to understand that there's a human being here, and the human being is the one I'm talking to and talking to me. But because it's coming through the physical body and I see the physical body, so therefore it's as if I'm actually seeing the person's personality with my eyes of flesh. To be continued.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. Have a great day. What? דקה.